Alrighty, so Crockshell is back, and he is super annoying, of course. If you do not know the gimmick to this fight, it basically all revolves around Ignite debuffs, which can be a little bit troublesome, because if you weren't around for the KOF collabs, you probably don't have Kyo, who is like the Ignite king. So, I would highly recommend you do it on either a lower difficulty, or if you have a better option, you can run it on like one of the higher difficulties. The big thing here is that, like I said, Kyo is kind of the best character to use for this, because he just applies Ignites just passively from his passive, and he puts an additional 2 on for his Holy Relic, which is really nice. So you're basically putting on 4 Ignites turn 1, which is enough to get you through the shield on hard difficulty pretty much right out of the gate. So there is another option. If you have Monspeet, his ultimate actually scales and puts 1 additional Ignite on depending on his ultimate level. So if you have him like maxed out ultimate by chance, you could potentially ult rush and use him to get through as well. But for people who do not have Kyo, or maybe don't have high ults on Monspeet, like I don't, I know that one of my Monspeets is 4-6, one of them is 3-6, but it's okay. It's not the best ever, but they definitely could work if there were 4-6 or higher. We're going to be using these 3 characters right here, because if you don't know, Kayn, surprisingly, is kind of in a clutch situation here, because both of his cards put Ignites on. And this one actually right here, the one where he's kicking, it actually scales like you would expect it to, like it should, I guess, where it's 1 Ignite on level 1, 2 Ignites on level 2, 3 Ignites on level 3. His other one is 1 Ignite on first and second, and it actually removes buffs on level 2, but it only applies 2 on level 3, whereas if we look at Melee, his Ignite card actually scales the same, so if you can get higher level cards for those, it actually works out a little bit better. And we're using green Escanor because he actually puts on Ignites with his regular, just, you know, Sun card. So, obviously, there's sort of a gimmick to this fight where you can swap between 2 different teams, so I have like a damage-dealing team here as well. It's kind of a throwaway because I normally only end up using 1, but we're going to be doing it on a hard difficulty just because it's a lot simpler. This fight is really tedious. It can take a lot of extra time and everything, so, you know, don't stress out over it too much. Even if you run it on a lower difficulty, like it might take you a couple of extra days of like running it 5 times, but you won't have to stress out or you like dedicate as much time to it. Another thing to mention is that, so first of all, he does put up this shield. You can see it from the little buff that he has up here. It's gray, so you can't remove it. Once you reach a certain amount of Ignite stacks, he actually removes the shield, and you can actually deal damage to him. So the idea is to just spam him with Ignite cards here. The problem being is that on his second turn, he's actually going to use, he's going to make it to where you cannot use buff skills, which is gonna stop you from cleansing with like Margaret, for example. You could potentially bring in like a recovery skill cleanser, but there's not as many of those nowadays. But either way, he also on turn 2 will use a debuff card, and you can see the debuff card right here. It disables debuff skills. So if you haven't applied enough Ignite stacks by the time that you get to this stage, you actually won't be able to ignite him for a couple of turns, which will be super annoying. So try to spam them as much as possible. You know, I guess with this team specifically, you literally start with 4 Ignite cards already in hand, so it's literally just going to be a matter of you using those cards over the course of 2 turns, and you should be okay in that scenario. So normally what I do is Escanor is actually pretty decent for just damage overall. Like I said, you do only need 4 Ignite stacks total for to actually get his little shield to dissolve, so know that I just went a little bit overboard there. But luckily, Escanor is pretty good on damage in general, so I can kind of use him to just ult the second phase here once we get into it. He's a little bit tankier in this phase, but it's not really a big issue because just literally Escanor does a whole bunch of damage with his ultimate. So obviously, if you don't have some of these characters, you can potentially swap them out for different things here or there, but just know that the main gimmick itself is using Ignites. They did add a Hell difficulty to this fight specifically for this update, which is kind of interesting. They have the chat was telling me that you need 6, or no, I think it's either 6 or 7 Ignites to get through the shield on this one, which could be a little bit troublesome, but obviously, like I said, if you're using Monspeet Ult Rush, or if you have Kyo, it shouldn't be as much of a problem, and obviously the higher difficulty you do it on, the more currency you're going to get out of it, which means you'll be able to complete the shop just a little bit faster. So that's pretty much the gist of things. I know it's been a while since we've had this one, and I'm pretty sure I used the same sort of team setup last time, so it's probably not anything too new, but for newer players who are getting into the game or anything like that, this is how you're able to beat the boss. So thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Have a good day.